So today I'm going to be talking about Wat Tyler's Rebellion, the rebellion that led to the abolishment of serfdom in England. So the Black Death rolls around and it wipes out 50% of the population in England. This means that labor is a lot more valuable than it previously was, and so commoners are able to demand much higher wages than they previously would be able to. This leads to the Ordinance of Labor in 1349 and the Statute of Labor in 1351, which make it so wages can only be at what they were pre-plague, and it's a crime to go back on previous contracts with harsh punishments for people who disobey. But a lot of people did anyway. Even nobles were breaking this law and paying their peasants and their commoners a lot more than they previously would, so that they could take advantage of this and get a lot more people working for them. This led to the lower classes having a lot more buying power than they previously did, which led to the sumptuary laws, making it so peasants had to wear clothes that are befitting of peasants and only eat food that is befitting of peasants because they were buying fancier food and fancier clothes, and nobles did not like that. So the Hundred Years' War is happening as well, and that war is expensive. So to fund it, they have these things called the poll taxes, where they tax the nobles to pay for the war. But a lot of that money wasn't going to the war, it was being embezzled. Around this time, also, Richard II in 1377 is crowned king at only 10 years old. Also, there is this figure named John of Gaunt in England. He is the richest man in England, and people hate him. He is a cruel man and widely despised. Now, two-thirds is the third poll tax. It is the two-thirds poll tax. It's called that because one-third was supposed to be paid by the clergy and two-thirds by the commoners. But a lot of people were refusing to pay the tax. And so, to make sure people actually do it, they sent out commissions. And these commissions would go to various places, such as Essex, where John of Bampton went out. And they would go out and create an assembly of representatives and say, hey, you guys gotta pay the toll. But John Bampton, when he did it, he got the response from Thomas Baker, one of the representatives, saying, we already paid your tax. We're not giving you more. And so John Bampton tries to arrest him. But Thomas Baker's men, they came prepared. They were armed. And so when he's being arrested, that leads to the start of the rebellion, to break him out. And as the rebellion has started, a leader emerges, Wat Tyler, a charismatic figure who's great at leading the peasants. So everyone comes down and they march on London. And along the way, they start executing officials left and right. They especially are going after lawyers, like high officials, people involved in finance, the people who are oppressing them, who are doing this poll. They execute the lot of them, and they start burning official records, especially records with the green seal that are financial records. They burn them because what their goal is to get rid of the proof of the way commoners were treated, the way the peasants were treated in England. They want to get rid of the proof of that, so there's now space for something new. A cleric within their ranks named John Ball coined the phrase, with King Richard and the true commons of England, which meant that the rebels were still loyal to King Richard, but they were not loyal to his officials. They hated his officials. Now, King Richard, hearing about this, he shows up and meets the rebels on a boat and asks them, well, what do you guys even want? And what the rebels respond with is, well, we want to free the serfs, we want to end serfdom, we want heads to roll, we hate your officials, we're going to kill all of them. And also, I think things are a little too expensive. It would be nice if, you lowered land rent a little bit. So, as King Richard leaves, they continue to march on London, and despite King Richard not really liking the sound of these proposals, the Londoners, they loved it. And they were friendly with the rebels, and they just threw open the drawbridge voluntarily. Come on in. And so, as they started marching through London, they were releasing prisoners left and right. And this was a way to bolster their ranks because most of these prisoners, or at least a lot of them, were debtors. They hated the exact same people the rebels did, and so they were easy allies. And what they all agreed with is that we need to destroy John of Gaunt. But he's not here right now. He's off fighting the Scots. So they'll settle for the next best thing, which is burn down his palace, the Savoy Palace, and destroy all of the other buildings he owns, and also all of the buildings his associates own. They also destroy the new temple because they want to wipe out the legal profession entirely, because they think it was holding them down. Now, King Richard, in another attempt to try to calm the rebels down and get them to leave, he writes a bill saying, "Hey, so we'll talk about your various issues later. We'll talk about it later. For now, you can all leave." The rebels did not leave. Now, with the fact that they didn't leave, King Richard decides to meet with the rebels one more time. And, well, he asks, "Well, what are you guys demanding?" And, well, they repeat, they want to free the serfs. They want to kill his associates. They want to lower land rent. And so, like, King Richard, he could have quelled this mob by giving kind of like a political response, like, "Oh, well, we can talk about it, maybe we'll be able to." But what he instead does is he makes the mistake by going, "Oh, okay, well, you can capture the enemies of the state. We're going to get rid of the enemies of the state, and you can have all your demands. I'll end serfdom, we'll do whatever." And so the rebels are like, "Wow, we've been blessed by the king. This is so great." And so they march on the Tower of London, which, by the way, King Richard is only 14, so he probably was fairly easy to convince to give in. But yeah, so they go and they march on the Tower of London. They enter, they start killing officials left and right. Some of them managed to escape, but a lot of people died. And the guards who were supposed to be guarding the Tower of London, they were so confused. Wait, the king said that these rebels were allowed to get in? Okay. And so they just let him in because they weren't really sure what else to do. Now, this rebellion had gotten a lot done, but it can't last forever. So, King Richard II meets the rebels one more time. One more time, because it worked out so great the last three times. And Wat Tyler rides up to King Richard and King Richard is like, "Okay, I'll grant you whatever I can fairly grant you, but you got to leave." And Wat Tyler, he kind of stands there. He's not really sure what to say. He's kind of confused. And so he responds, "Well, I want a jug of water." He's given one. He drinks from the water, swirls it around in his mouth, spits it out on the ground. Now, voice from the crowd cries out saying, "Hey, you can't do that in front of the king. That's disrespectful." Wat Tyler pulls out his knife, waves it around, saying, "Hey, hey, hey, whoever said that, I'll cut off your head." Guard Guard sees this, seeing him waving his knife around, says, "Hey, you can't act so brutishly in front of the king. You're under arrest." Rides up to Wat Tyler. Wat Tyler goes to stab him. Knife clinks off the armor. The guard then starts stabbing Wat Tyler and doesn't kill him at first, but seriously wounds him. But it takes him a while for him to die, but he eventually cuts his head off, holds it in front of the rebels, and says, "You all need to go home." And the rebels, they beg to be let to go home by the king, and the king allows it. They all leave. That part of the rebellion's done. But not every part of the rebellion was there that day, so the rest keep rebelling, but the wind has been really knocked out of the sails. With Wat Tyler dead, it's just not the same as it was. And so it's really not hard to wipe out the rest of the rebellion after that. And with with it being wiped out, it might seem like it was hopeless, like it didn't accomplish anything, but no, they got what they wanted. The officials they want dead died. Serfdom was ended. They got the rights that they asked for. And so this rebellion has become a symbol of what the people can do when they're pushed hard enough.